Welcome to the Max 6 Community Connections radio show and podcast with your host, Jennifer Burwell and Kyle McIntosh. Max 6 builds better communities where people and businesses thrive. We are broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center in Tempe, Arizona, and will be shining a light on the incredible stories of businesses we work with and how they are serving our broader community. And here is this week's Community Connection.
Hello and welcome, everyone. We have an amazing show today. I am so excited. Unfortunately, Kyle McIntosh, my co-host, is out taking care of his wife who had surgery today. All is well, and we hope to have him back soon. We're thinking of him, but I'm going to do my best to fill his great shoes. But today on the show, we have three impressive community members. First, we have Erika Acorn, Vice President and Director in Business Development for the Tempe Chamber. I was saying my title for a second. Sorry about that, Erika. We also have Greg Tucker, PhD, Chemist and Technical Specialist. And finally, we have Kelly Lorenzen, CEO of KLM Consulting, Marketing and Management. I am so excited to have you all. Welcome.
Great to be here.
Yes,
Thanks for having us, Jennifer.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we always like to start the show with just learning a little bit more about each of you, kind of taking us all the way back as far as you want to go. But where did you come from and how did you get to the place you are today? So let's start with you, Kelly.
Me first.
Ladies first.
I thought you were going to go in order again. You want to keep me on my toes. I'm Kelly Lorenzen. I own a business development firm here in Tempe and a community member at Max 6 that I'm very thankful to have found with entrepreneurs. All of us are very different and similar, so it's been fun to get to know a bunch of people and in this process. But where I came from, Tempe native, and went to LA for a couple of years, came back, and started my first business right out of college. I owned a real estate practice. As I grow into each new business, I'm growing up and growing out in back into myself. I'm reading a great book right now by Oprah, and she has some great tips, but especially for life. So I was thinking back because I knew you were going to ask this question because I listen to your show every week. So, entrepreneurial parents, which is probably some of the reason that I have chosen to be an entrepreneur. And I say I'm unhireable, probably because of that. Growing up, seeing the flexibility, but the hard work and doing what you love, and all of that pays off to have an amazing life. So that's where I came from, and helped my family run their medical practice after I was done with real estate when the market crashed, and unfortunately was helping people lose their houses and doing short sales and moving into apartments. I couldn't stomach it anymore. I have a soft heart, so I couldn't do that anymore. So I helped grow the medical practice here in Arizona for 5 years, and then saw another opportunity to have a retail and e-commerce business, fulfillment house for compression stockings because we needed those in our medical practice. So made that a separate business and did that for 3 years or so, and then figured that I was back to, we built it so big in-house that people were coming in 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. And I said, wait a minute, I didn't start this business to go back into retail, from when I was a kid. So I didn't want bankers hours. And so I decided that was enough of that. And, but gained a ton of knowledge about, working with fulfillment houses and retail and having an e-commerce site of 10,000 SKUs and all that. And I know it was crazy. And then decided to get my certification in project management. And said, what do I want to do with that? And started helping entrepreneurs with the projects that they didn't have time for or take stuff off their plates, and have built this newish business over the last 4 years, helping people grow their businesses. So it's really been really, really fun, and taking all the experience I learned in all the other businesses and being able to help entrepreneurs, take stuff off their plate so they can continue to do what they love. It's been really, really fun.
Wow. that is quite the journey. And I had no idea about the diversity in the different businesses that you've grown. It's so interesting. And I think a lot about my own journey, and my parents, my father in particular, was very entrepreneurial. And I think that's where I also developed that love of business and spirit. But what really resonated for me was, if you have an idea, or you want to, like what you just said, you want to create a life, like you don't want 9 to 5, like entrepreneurship provides that vehicle. And I think it's such a special gift that our parents, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like it's a special gift that my parents gave to me, to see that, and just the way that I formulated, and I see it in all areas of my life. And so I think a lot about my children and what they see with me, and also your children, because you have a son and a daughter, right, Kelly?
Yes.
Yeah. So they must also see, the different businesses that you build, and I'm sure it's influencing them. And I also see like the wide diversity that you have of like what an asset you bring to entrepreneurs with all the different experience. And I have so many more questions about your business, but I want to make sure we get to know everyone first. So thank you so much for sharing that. Let's see. Greg, how about you? I'm just mixing up the order.
Yeah, sure.
Keeping everyone on their toes.
Girl, boy, girl. That's a
There you
good
go.
order to mix it up
There we
in. That's
go.
how you usually mix it up in a picture. Tell Priori Greg Tucker. We actually had a pre-conversation about this. So in my professional community, I go by Greg. Not only I've been a teaching assistant at ASU, I am a graduate from ASU, fellow Sun Devil. And I was teaching at GCU as a laboratory instructor, but due to COVID, it allowed me not to teach right now. Unfortunately, I couldn't bestow some of that scientific knowledge with the students, but we definitely had to stay safe because of social distancing. But I work for VIC, a Virtual Incubator Corporation in Technology Venture Development, and I'm actually housed here in MAC 6. I'm probably one of the latest residents here with our virtual corporation, where we have different satellite locations across the country. So my background is a chemist. I went to Tennessee State University for a bachelor's, came out to Arizona to attend Arizona State University, and now the School of Molecular Sciences, where I got a doctorate in chemistry, and more specifically physical chemistry, and with applications in electrochemistry. So I work with different chemical compositions, from strong acids such as pyrophoric metals like lithium, to hydrochloric acid, to air-free compounds, working in glove boxes, laboratory synthesis, and I used all that expertise under our principal investigator, Austin Angel, where I hold multiple patents with some of these chemical compounds can be used for batteries, for energy storage, which a lot of people are familiar with, and also for fuel cell technology, energy generation. A good example is right down the street in South Phoenix, Nikola Motors, where they're the first trucking company in the country to utilize fuel cell technology versus an internal combustion engine. So I kind of mentioned some of my background in chemistry, getting a doctorate from Arizona State University, teaching at GCU, and now more so evolution in my career, being a patent holder, now looking at other available technologies throughout the country, throughout the world even. I actually had a meeting today speaking with a group in Austria, but looking at what intellectual property is. Most people I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, but most people are just familiar with patents, especially that late night commercial that kind of comes on about an invention you might want to get filed. And that's usually with the general public, but I work more in the academic setting. So as an inventor myself now, I'm reaching out to faculty and professors and see how we can make an early venture development and help spur the American economy.
That's awesome.
That's super impressive. We were talking ahead of the show a couple minutes, and we were all saying we really hope we speak the same language, because what I really appreciate, and I think this might be the professor in you, is you're able to like break down really complex ideas into ways that I can understand them. I really appreciate that. And my sister has a doctorate in chemistry, and she actually went on to be a pharmacist. But when she starts talking about chemical compounds, it's like, I'm always like, Michelle, just tell me, should I take this medicine or not? And I don't,
Yeah.
and it's funny, but you reminded me
so-
of that. And one last question I have for you before we move to Erika is, have you met the people at Park Lane? We call them lovingly our mad scientists over there. They have a clean room.
So unfortunately, I know Kyle couldn't be here, but I met his father, Scott. In fact, my desk is right next to Scott's, and he was actually going to give me a personal tour, but again, practicing social distancing, physical distancing. From my understanding, they just had a new grandchild, so we want to make sure everyone's safe. And I know no strangers, and I can tell him he doesn't either. We had a great conversation, but he plans on taking me over there a little bit later after things kind of settle down a little bit. But I'm really looking forward to it because you guys have some great entrepreneurs and innovations happening out of there.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot that Scott is scheduling. That would be great because they, the clean room over there is really interesting, and they tell us about all the things that they're doing, and we appreciate it for sure. But I think you would be able to understand it and appreciate it on even a much deeper level. So yeah, that'll be great. All right, and Miss Erika, how about you?
So I've been at the Chamber for 2 years now. I just had my 2-year anniversary last week.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I've signed on over 200 businesses in 2 years, just to about give or take. So that's been exciting, getting to learn all about, local business leaders, inside and outside of Tempe. People outside of the city of Tempe, they want to work with people in Tempe because it's such an awesome place to do business. So it's been a lot of fun. I have a nonprofit marketing background and kind of our personal journey, how I got here. It's kind of serendipitous, I think. My parents were small business owners. My dad and his brothers took over the family business at young ages. They owned a cheese factory in South Dakota. I grew up in a very small town, 350 people, which is kind of unique and interesting. But I always understood the impact that a business has on a community. My uncle was the mayor. My dad was volunteer fire chief. So I just always had that good understanding of how the business side and the community side all have to work together to have a strong, thriving economy, no matter how small. And so it just kind of fits what I do now is to make sure that we have a strong economy here in Tempe. And even though Tempe is a lot larger than what I'm used to, it still has that small community feel. And that's one of the things that I love about the Chamber and being here in Max 6.
That's awesome. Thank you. I didn't know that about you. And I'm an Arizona native too. And so I've never lived in a small town, and I'm always curious of what is it really like? Did you really know everyone?
Oh yeah. We knew everybody. If you needed gas, one gas station was open just Monday through Friday, but you had a gas key so you could get your own gas.
Oh, nice.
And the grocery store was closed on Sundays, so everybody could go to church and do those things. And then, you knew the Grobies, so you would politely ask if you were desperately out of something. But yeah, you knew everybody. The closest, what would we call it now? Like a Walgreens type store was 30 miles away. So a lot different. The nearest mall was 2 hours away in Fargo.
I'm definitely familiar with Fargo from the movies.
Oh yeah, it's very similar. And sometimes when I get around people from the Midwest, I'll start talking like that. Yeah.
That's awesome. So that makes me think in a roundabout way that what we're trying to create at Max 6 is that small town feel that, we do live in the middle of a big city, but we're trying to make sure that people know who's in our little community and how we can connect and support each other. Mm-hmm. And I know that's what definitely drew me in when I first joined Max 6 is really building this community to support entrepreneurs and the dream. Everybody that's in our space has a dream and is wanting to do something big and change the world. And it's so powerful. And I know I enjoy when I'm physically there, but also when I'm virtually as well. I enjoy my time with everyone in our community. But if we could all just quickly share kind of what brought you to Max 6, because I don't know that I fully know the answer to that. And I would love to hear either what brought you to Max 6 or what keeps you here. Let's just maybe go round robin again. Kelly?
I originally came to Max 6 for a show at Phoenix Business RadioX.
Nice.
Year or two ago, maybe. I can't remember now. One of my clients, I was helping her with marketing. She's like, please come be on my show with me. So I came on and met Karen and fast fast friends, instant connection, and then came again for a couple other things, and just fell in love with all of you guys and how warm and welcoming you are, and just being around other entrepreneurs. I am that for. I'm a consultant, for other entrepreneurs who are new to being to entrepreneurs and they don't have anybody to talk to. So this was like, ooh, I get to find my people, for me having that for other entrepreneurs. And I'm really big on supporting local business. And, so Tempe and entrepreneurs, and I get to support all the local businesses. Was like, yep, and check.
That's awesome. Well, we love having you, Kelly. And Greg, as you mentioned, you're one of our newer members. How did you find your way to Max 6?
Yeah, really good question. So, with this new contract that I have, I'm a representative for the state of Arizona. So they were looking for office space, and I'm very familiar with co-working spaces. In fact, I used to own a light electric vehicle company, so two-wheeled electric vehicles, electric bikes for short, and I was based out of downtown. So the first space I worked out of was Cahoots. And from my understanding, they were the first in the metro area. Actually, Karen, I saw Jenny is on the front of your poster over there. So she was definitely been on the show. So to save overhead. So number one, save overhead. But then number two, the convenience of location. I actually later moved my light electric vehicle to Tempe. Tempe is centrally located in the Metro Valley. So definitely good to be connected with. Since I still work at ASU, to be have an office here and close by in vicinity. But then number three, y'all have some great internet speed over here, especially if we're in a pandemic and having to work virtually, tremendous. And then lastly, it's always what I loved about co-working spaces is the community. Everyone's kind of mentioned that here so far, the personability, bumping into Karen by the coffee machine, having our conversations. Jennifer, you reaching out to me, and the warmness, and Erika, you talking about being in a small town. I'm from a semi-small town too, Colorado Springs, Colorado, and it's that opportunity to kind of get to know everyone. Everyone is an entrepreneur in themselves. I'm a serial entrepreneur. It sounds like many of you all are too, so we can share our skill sets. But then when you do finally do business and commerce, Kelly, never would have known you sold compression socks. I'm actually from old athletic injuries. I'm actually wearing one on my right leg right now. So yeah.
Good for you better keep wearing it.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, instead of, always going to big box stores, I can definitely come talk to you. And that's what it's about. It's about doing business and forming partnerships and relationships. And that's what it is. Someone helping you with a product or service. And you're so grateful, like, hey, let me repay you somehow, some way. And we have a monetary system for that, or a bartering system as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we see a lot of both of those around here, but everybody's so generous with their time and ideas and just sharing and connecting. And I think that's what always makes me so happy. It's when I'm in meetings. For a lot of time, when we first started, it was really like we wanted to try to make connections happen and kind of be behind the scenes, putting people together. And we realized very shortly, like, we don't need to have that much control about it. Like, you put great people together and like, it'll just happen organically. And so that's what I love when, like, I see community members reaching out and making their own connections. It's awesome. And Erika, so the Tempe Chamber, Anne reminded me of this story, your CEO a few weeks ago, that you guys, your official move-in date to you guys have a private suite office in our building, was March 13th.
Yes.
And then shutdown happened March 17th, or like, I don't think you guys went to the office.
No. Yeah. So yeah, we had a big event. I think it was March 11th, a Military Affairs Committee Awards luncheon. On Friday, we moved to the office, and it was a rainy day, and I think it's the last time it rained in Phoenix. We're moving in that Friday. Monday, we came in for a physically distanced staff meeting, and most of us never came back to the office. And that was March 17th, I believe.
Yeah, so it was not the start that we had hoped for,
No.
but you guys are such an anchor in our community, and I know many of you are working virtually, but there are still people at your office, right, if they need to come see you?
Yeah. Mark, our retention specialist, is always in the office. Suki is generally in the office, our vice president of marketing and programs. And we are open by appointment only.
Yeah.
So call, make an appointment. We're friendly.
Yeah. You guys are very friendly. And what do you know, what was the draw to Max 6 or why the Tempe Chamber decided to join our community?
Yeah, definitely. I think the relationship with Max 6 started before me in 2018 when I joined. Kyle's been a part of the board of directors. And I think the relationship kind of naturally blossomed because, like we keep talking about, the community, warm, friendly. How can the business community help support entrepreneurs and the solopreneurs and really the business community? So there was really no better way to do that than a partnership with Max 6. And yes, so far it's been great. We've really been able to connect with a lot of the businesses here. A lot of Max 6 members are Tempe Chamber members. And we had our membership 101 last week, and that was fun to get to know some more members a little bit better and learn their needs and their goals to see how we can help them.
Yeah, it was awesome because we had a community member reach out to me a couple weeks ago and just say, hey, I think I heard something. I'm really wanting to provide health insurance for my employees. And as we all know, as small business owners, health insurance is it's complicated, it's expensive, it's all sorts of things. He said, does Max 6 provide like group health insurance? And the thing that made me smile was I was able to say, no, Max 6 doesn't, but let me connect you to the Tempe Chamber because they have a group health insurance plan. So to be able to just that partnership of be able to increase all of the things that we're able to offer. And again, it's really about like moving all the obstacles out of the way to help all of you and us achieve whatever it is we're working on. So I didn't intend for this to be a Max 6 love session. So let's definitely move on to be talking about you guys and your businesses. But before I do, I just want to share that we are eternally grateful for all of you and for helping to make the community so wonderful, because it really is what we all do collectively. So thank you.
It should be a love fest.
No problem.
You guys do amazing things and you should have the credit.
I feel the energy in the room right now, even virtually.
Yep.
Online.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you. Yeah. But, and Karen would appreciate my let's talk about you guys, because you guys all do amazing things and I want to learn more. So, Kelly, first talk to us. You shared a little bit about your background and how you can help entrepreneurs, but why did you land in the new business that you have? Well, relatively new. It's been 4 years, so it's not that new anymore. Why did you start it? And then kind of explain who your ideal customer is for us.
In all my other businesses, I constantly ran into, I either need to keep hiring assistants. In my first business, I kept hiring and hiring and hiring, could never find the right person to do everything, right? In my second business, we went through a ton of marketing agencies with the family medical practice, a ton, and not everybody did everything, right? You had to hire this person for this and this person for that. And we could never find the right fit. So we ended up doing a lot of it ourselves, but still paying them for it. In my third business, I loved the marketing, but I had to outsource that because I was the only one who knew all 10,000 options for compression stockings. And so I had to be the salesperson and outsource the marketing. And while it was okay, I'm pretty picky about what happens with marketing and my marketing. So then I was like, well, I wish I just could hire somebody for just this piece of it or for the e-commerce site. Oh my gosh. I went through, I think, $20,000 or $25,000 trying to build my e-commerce site with other people and just kept having to pay and pay and pay and pay. And I'm like, so finally, obviously, I had to teach myself. So I learned all these things along the way. And now I get to offer whatever piece the person either doesn't know how to, the entrepreneur doesn't know how to do. Okay, yep, give me that because I know how to do that. Then they're done that. Or they just don't like it and they don't have time for it, then I can fill in for that. So I really started this business to be the person that I wished I would have had in all my other businesses. And so we've grown triple since the beginning of 2020 because everybody's having to shiv it. That's a new word.
Oh, it's definitely shiv it. That's a good one.
I think I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
Pivot and shift, and really have been so thankful that I can just plug in. A lot of entrepreneurs don't have $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, like we were paying in the medical practice to pay for marketing. There's just no budget for that, and so it's been so nice to just get to fill in exactly how they need me, and then when they don't need me anymore, then they call me 6 months later. Okay, I need you again. I need my Kelly back. So that's been really fun to just fill in exactly what I would have wished I had in all those other businesses.
Nice.
That's so awesome. And so you help us with the show because Kyle and I need some help with, like, you were amazing at like reminders, like, oh, hey, you're supposed to be doing this, or hey, what about this? And like all the behind the scenes stuff, which has just been, Kyle and I comment frequently, like, oh gosh, if we didn't have Kelly, we would be lost, roaming the desert or something. Because
that's not true. That's not true. I just make sure you stay on your toes. That's all.
But the thing that you just made me think about, so my father-in-law and I own a donut business, which we started in November of 2019 in the mall, Chandler Mall, and then COVID hit in March. So that was terrible timing for an in-mall food business, but we are making it work. But we literally were talking about a conversation last weekend where he has a full-time job. I have my full-time job, plus, being a mom and all the other things we all have balancing. We don't have the time to do all these things. And we keep coming up with a list of, like, we wish we had somebody to do these things. And I don't know why it never occurred to me, but I have someone in my life who can help us with these things. So this, if nothing else, this show is tremendously helpful for me. So thank you all for coming to solve my problems. But that's awesome. Thank you, Kelly. And so your ideal client is that entrepreneur that's kind of like what I just described with, I'm overwhelmed. I need to do marketing. I have all these other pieces. I need to do business development. I need better project management. And that's where you come in.
That's it. I literally just hold their balloons for them, right? Their idea balloons, and let me hold your balloons, or I plug the hole, or whatever it is. And it makes no difference to me if it's for, 2 weeks or 2 years, or I love the stories of entrepreneurship and all the different things of why you did it, and helping you just keep pushing that up and up and up. So it's just been fun.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. All right, let's move to Greg. I'm going to keep the order the same. So I'm going to try to explain what I think you do in layman's terms, and then you can correct me and tell me where I'm wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
So from what I understand, your organization looks at all of emerging technology. Am I right so far?
Yeah, you're very hot.
Okay, good. And then you look at it and you see opportunities that have high potential, and then you I don't know what the right words are, petition for patent. You guys secure patents on these ideas anywhere?
Yeah, you're hot, not as hot.
Okay, so you should probably take over.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I also work at Arizona State University, so Sky Song Innovations, and it's a TTO, Technology Transfer Office. And I guess just to rewind it a little bit,
Sure.
So again, I'm an inventor myself. When I was a research associate there, I went from the Tempe lab to the Scottsdale office where I work. But what happens is in the lab, you end up having a discovery, and that's the conception of an idea or some kind of invention. From there, normally your professor would want to make a publication of it. But prior to that, if it's a significant invention, you can submit an invention disclosure form. From there, it goes through the proper channels of what I do, a tech evaluation form, look at the technology, evaluate it with our team, and the patent attorney or my supervisor approves it. From there, it goes to outside counsel, where it ends up going through the patent prosecution process. So first being filed, Then from there, becoming a provisional patent application after 12 months. It's scrutinized by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And then hopefully before the third office action, I come in as a technical specialist. Anything that's kind of materials or chemistry related, help the faculty with the claims, and the claims are most important thing from there, and try to get that patent issued. And then when you hear about the notice of allowance of the claims, then it goes from patent pending to patent issued. So that's my Arizona State University job. Now where Vic comes in, the technology venture development, with these issued patents, there's so many of them. In fact, today is the celebration of the Bayh-Dole Act from 1980, where it actually helped a lot of patents at the academic institutions for it to be a lot easier for them to be licensed by vehicles like Vic, to where they can form small businesses. Because before, the U.S. government just used to own them, and now the assignee. So even though as a professor or a researcher, you can be the inventor, if it's at a university, the assignee is usually the state, since it's a public institution. So in that microcosm, Vic, we look at the advantages, the novelty, the barriers that it overcomes with the current competitive market landscape. We look at the patent landscape, the market growth, and see how this technology can further advance what's already out there in society. So they're usually utility patents. So you have different type of patents: design, utility. You even have plant patents. So you want to look for either a device, an improvement, a chemical composition, a matter, which I normally focus on, or a method. So from there, we use another federally funded vehicle called an SBIR, so Small Business Innovation Research Grant, or the STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer. So it's almost like the business model, basically, for faculty, professors, scientists, or anyone more so getting off the ground, because you can still be outside the academic setting. But it's a great way to get that pre-seed startup funding to get your business off the ground, your venture off the ground, this intellectual property off the ground, and have it more in a phase 1, a feasible study, to see how this can later become a phase 2, become more of an impact in our already current technology in our environment. So that's what I do here with Vic. I scour online looking at different technologies. I'm in the physical sciences division. So anything related to kind of like what I was mentioning, energy related, batteries, solar cells, photovoltaics, fuel cells, and even supercapacitors, stuff along those lines. And a perfect example is like our cell phones, mobile technologies. And in fact, even more so, unfortunately, the silver lining in this working virtually is that now you're seeing a huge increase in like online technologies like Zoom now. Zoom is a household name now, and it's because of the pandemic that we have to utilize these technologies, but utilize them in a great way to further connect us now. But that shows where intellectual property, they definitely have patents and stuff along those lines. Funny story. I think all of us can say this. We've been on so many WebEx, Zoom, Google Hangout calls. I was on ASU had the guest speaker, the CEO of Zoom, on there. So I was on a Zoom call with the Zoom CEO. So that was kind of fun.
That's awesome.
And but yeah, other than that, this is where innovation spurs from. So out of a series of misunfortunate events like this, now we're seeing a huge spur in technologies virtually, and then also biosensors as well. We're going to see a huge play in that, where stuff that can diagnose COVID-19 with different technologies like Abbott, but then different vaccines that are coming out. That spins at an intellectual property as well, where it goes through the proper channels of commercialization. I was mentioning where companies like Moderna, hopefully they'll have their vaccine out on the market by 2021 after proper clinical trials and stuff along those lines. So that is kind of the ecosystem, kind of cradle to grave of conception in the lab to a TTO, going through the patent prosecution process for patent pending. Then with these issue patents like with Vic, looking at these small these intellectual properties to make small companies, and then for the greater good of society, advancing technology and betterment of society, like we see as a lot of us are consumers of some form of intellectual property.
Wow. Okay.
And you know what's funny? I actually have a business in the chamber that I want you to meet.
Oh, great.
Yep. They want, I believe, right? We don't know, but I think I can say what he's doing it's like hydropower for your home.
Okay.
Deuterium?
Deuterium. So hydrogen, H3O, positively charged. Deuterium, I believe.
Jake White, if you're listening out there, let us know.
It's basically H2O, a water molecule with an extra hydrogen, which is positively charged. It's kind of unstable from my understanding, but
I don't know.
But I would like to. But it's actually something that they use for a chemical marker in some of the research labs at ASU.
Oh my gosh, I want you to meet my son. Seriously, you sound exactly what I can picture my son being in 20 or 30 years from now. Oh my gosh, inventor, scientist, he loves all that stuff. He starts talking to me. I'm like, you're way over my head, bud. I can get little tiny snippets of what he's saying. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and like, thank you for mentioning that, because I always feel like, so first off, being in the lab, I'm a lab rat. I am, and a lot of times we're trying to create answers for problems in the real world, where a lot of times we're not venturing outside the lab. So it was really when I became an entrepreneur. So I've been an entrepreneur since high school. I bought an old town car, and when I was in Tennessee, at Tennessee State, and would take people to the airport. I can do about anything with my hands on a car except rebuild an engine and drop a transmission. So later down the road, I've done entrepreneurial ventures of solar ionics, so working with Ionic Liquids. So you're hearing it. You probably already heard of nanotechnology. That's more of a household name now. So Ionic Liquids is just basically a liquid completely composed of ions, which is water-free. And why do I say conduct ions? So you have lithium-ion batteries. So this can be a medium to conduct those for charge and discharge purposes, and get away from other flammable electrolytes, where we saw those fiery situations with some of those batteries with thermal runaway and stuff along those lines. So that's being utilized more. But then also, besides solar ionics, I worked in Tucson with Metox Electrochemicals using some of these, another version of it, a molten salt. So molten salt is basically like, an example I like to use is sodium chloride, which is household table salt, but it melts at 800 degrees centigrade. So that's, I think, 1400 Fahrenheit, and it becomes a liquid. And what's the purpose of this liquid? Well, at one point, aluminum used to be more expensive than gold, from my understanding, like near the Industrial Revolution. And you use this molten salt. It's an aluminum-based form that obviously that's very hot, but you're able to extract the aluminum and whatever smelting process that is invented for it. But that's where using these processes, you can make aluminum much more cheaper. And that's why we have aluminum cans and stuff along those lines. So so you see the inherent importance of science, the commercialization aspect and stuff along those lines. So full circle to the Tempe Chamber of Commerce, why we can have these conversations. I'm actually a member of the Green Chamber of Commerce here. And I know the importance of the hubs like that now, since venturing out the lab, being more of an entrepreneur.
So interesting.
Hugely important for all these chambers to be a part of. Oh my gosh, we have to.
Yeah. So I have a slightly random question, and I hope it's not a dumb question, but I've been sincerely wondering for like years, and I'm hoping that you have like a very simple answer that will help clear this up for me. So when Scott McIntosh met you, which is co-founder of Mech6, he was very excited. He's always excited when he meets like scientists. He's very into science. And he said, "Oh my gosh, you have to meet Greg. He's incredible, but he also is going to solve global warming." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, if you believe global warming is an issue, which I happen to believe, nuclear is the answer. And Greg is working on it." So are you going to solve global warming? But my real question is, how does, there's so much I don't understand to even understand I don't understand what he means by that. So how could potentially nuclear power help solve global warming?
Good question. And I have good news and I have bad news.
Okay.
So the bad news is I don't work on nuclear, but I've definitely, it's a non-fossil fuel. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the good news is I would love to solve global warming. It definitely is an issue. You have anthropogenic, so some of the CO2 produced by human beings, but then also the earth actually goes through natural cycles of it. It's just been exacerbated with some of the technology that we've had since the Industrial Revolution. But if I could solve that immediately, I would be running for president right now.
I would vote for you.
Thank you. I have one vote in Tempe. But just to talk about nuclear, I actually used to work with the Department of Energy in Washington State. So Washington State, Tennessee, Columbia, in South Carolina, and New York. We all heard of the Manhattan Project, making the atomic bomb. I worked up there working with fuel cell technology when I was a graduate student at the time. And they actually gave us a tour of the old Hanford site where they did some of the experiments with that. And it was, that was the first time, well, from my understanding, when it was explained to me that they really use nuclear power and stuff along those lines. But now, getting away from some of the devastation we've seen, like with that great series Chernobyl. Well, it was a terrible accident, catastrophe, but it's a great series on Netflix that kind of talks about what kind of happened. You have 3 Mile Island, where we've seen some of these meltdowns, and from my understanding, in South Carolina, they were trying to build a conventional nuclear power plant that didn't get off the ground. But now, with 3D printing, with these carbon-based materials, making modular nuclear energy now. So nuclear power is definitely a non-fossil fuel. Sometimes I've heard it called as a pseudo renewable energy because it gives off the necessary heat that can boil water and spin turbines. In fact, I actually took a group of students from ASU to the APS nuclear power plant here just west of the valley, and where we were able to get a breakdown of, in fact, another fun fact, it is the largest nuclear power plant in the country. And another additional fun fact, it is the only one in the world that uses reclaimed water. So we live in the desert. Most nuclear power plants are by a large source of water. So outside of that, it's going to be making, it already is making a comeback because now they can make more modular 3D printed type smaller units, kind of maybe more similar that you might see in some of these nuclear subs. But at the end of the day, I don't want to say every type of energy is bad because, again, you have intellectual properties now that as a nice intermediate, now you can scrub CO2 from some of these smokestacks or some of the soot or something along those lines where you can end up capturing that using ionic liquids and then transforming that CO2 into a fuel. So hopefully like methane or something along those lines. So you not only have your clean renewable energies, like I was mentioning, solar, fuel cells, batteries for energy storage, where you can either store some of this energy, but then also your traditional fossil fuels that can be cleaned, hopefully later down the road with some of these future patents that are coming out, spilling off into companies.
Wow. Well, thank you. That helps clear, at least in my own head, kind of what Scott was meaning by that comment. And if you do solve global warming, and even before that, I definitely, if you ever run for president, I will vote for you.
That's right.
Me too.
Well, I think I'll run for governor first, and then start off small.
Fair enough. And Erika, let's talk about your work at the Tempe Chamber and what you do specifically. So we talked about an impressive number to almost or over 200 businesses that you've recruited in your 2 years. What do you do in your day-to-day? What is your role?
Yeah, so business development. which is really fun. Basically, I just get to talk to really great businesses, different business owners, business leaders here in Tempe, get to learn more about what they do. If it's a small company, a solopreneur, or a very large organization, the Tempe Chamber can help. So it's just really listening and understanding the business's needs and matching them up with what we have to offer. So engagement looks different for every size business. Some people join the chamber because they want the visibility. They want to grow their network. Some businesses want to get their brand out there. So they're really interested in sponsoring our events, sending their employees to our Women in Business Council or the Military Affairs Committee. We have a sustainability program and committee. Or we have the large organizations that want to support the work we do, which in turn supports small businesses. So our larger investors, they invest in us because of our advocacy efforts. Our CEO is a registered lobbyist at the city and state level. She's also the legislative chair of the East Valley Chamber of Commerce Alliance, which is the largest business advocacy group in Arizona.
Wow. And
I love to say we have a larger lobbying power than the Phoenix Chamber and Arizona Chamber combined. So we're heavy hitters over here. So the larger organizations support the chamber so we can bring different programs together. Like we just launched the Tempe Chamber Business Academy. We have the Leadership Speaker Series coming up in December or in January, or we have a Sustainability Summit every year that might interest you. And then programs like Kelly's really involved in the Business Owners Forum. So again, going back to that word community, it takes everybody to have, it takes a village, right? I think that's the
Definitely.
term. Mm-hmm.
It's very true.
Yeah. And so a good client for me would really be anybody that's open to supporting the community, that's more, I would say, transformational in nature than transactional. Our Tempe Chamber members, they join for the educational opportunities to be recognized as a leader. So we're not here to sell you something, that's not what we do here. We want you to form relationships. So you go from personal to trust to the sale, if that makes sense. So long story short, transformational rather than transactional.
I love that. We always say at Max 6, we
Love
want people that are, Greg, that are relational and not transactional, but I like transformational too.
Likewise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we help a lot of people. And I think now more than ever, we're super excited and humbled that our retention rate is at, I think it was 89%, which is pretty high, even, considering COVID. And our new member rate is on par with what we need it to be. 8 new members joined last month, so that was really exciting.
Yeah, congrats.
Exciting for everybody in the chamber. And I always say, our members are the greatest, and it's the members that make my job so easy because we are so diverse, and there's, again, that community feel. It's amazing.
I was going to say, I know the feeling. Our community members that make my job very easy as well.
Right. We have scientists to the solopreneur to Wells Fargo or State Farm down at the lake. So
just listening to y'all, I feel like old friends here now.
Right.
It's awesome. So time has flown. We only have about 9 minutes left, and I have some very important questions that I need to get to.
Definitely.
But before we do that, I just want to make sure, is there anything that anyone wished that I would have asked them that I haven't yet? Or is there anything else that we want to share before we go to my lightning round of questions?
I would say for anybody who's not a Tempe Chamber member, it's one of the best decisions I've made in every single business. I've been a chamber member over 15 years. For every single business, and there isn't a better chamber. Believe me, I've been in all the other ones in the valley, and so you're right. It makes your job real easy when everyone is you guys are so warm and welcoming, and the content and the committees and the awards. I mean, I won an Entrepreneur of the Year award, with the chamber, and it's just nice, right? The recognition, the relationships. I mean, my favorite mentor Jackie Thompson with Southwest Airlines is just a dear friend of mine now, going through the mentoring program. So if there's something for everybody. So of course I have to brag.
Awesome.
Chamber.
Do you want my job? You can't have it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely concur. I tell a story often that I also made my rounds around a lot of different networking groups and chambers, and the only place that's ever felt home or most like home is the Tempe Chamber. And it's really the members, and just people are really focused on relationships and getting to know your business and who you are. But long before anybody's like trying to sell you something, or like, we've all been in meetings where people are shoving business cards in your hands, or like just, none of that happens. So it's a great place to be. All right. Are we ready for our lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right.
So, let's see. I have 3 questions because I have to ask Kyle's question. And we promised everyone we would talk about our favorite places to eat in Tempe, so we can't miss that. So maybe let's share that, and then we'll do our last 2 questions. So whoever would like to start, do you have a favorite place? Maybe we should start with Erika.
Well, we have to like put some context around it. Is it like breakfast, lunch, dinner? Is it kind of fancy? Like, what are we looking at?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Anything you could have, if you have one of all of those categories,
I got
that's
one that
good.
pops off the top of my head right now. Lalibella's.
You know what? I was going to say,
Ethiopian restaurant.
I was going to say, if you guys ask me the one restaurant that I want to try, it's Cafe Lalibela. It's the only one I really want to try, but it's been takeout only since COVID, I think.
Oh, okay.
And so
it's quite the experience when you eat inside.
Yeah, I'm bummed about that. There's a lot of great places in Tempe. Here at Mac 6, there's Hummus Express just down the road.
That is another great one.
Oh, it's so good.
In fact, Al and I were going to take some time to go over there for lunch. Maybe we're all old friends here. Maybe we should go there for lunch sometime.
That's great.
Yeah, sure.
And then, you can't go wrong with Haji Baba or the Daba down on Apache. Those are all really great. Something a little bit newer. Alter Ego at the Canopy Hotel. That's new. They just won Best New Hotel by the Phoenix New Times.
Okay.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And then, of course, you can't go wrong with House of Tricks. That's an institution.
Yeah.
So
I've still never been. I'm going to have to try that out. It's on my list now.
Yeah. And then I wish I had a list in front of me of all of our Tempe Chamber restaurants because they're pretty great. Boulders is right down the street. There's just so many.
Yeah, I was going to say Boulders for sure. That's a great place, especially at Mac 6, to like run down and get some food.
And very bicycle friendly. I'm a cyclist, and they've held events there. I actually started the first electric bike quarry at ASU. Besides a traditional mechanical bike, I love electric bikes, and we always meet at Boulders. They actually have a whole spot where people can put their bikes. It's a great spot.
Oh, that's awesome. There's a Vietnamese restaurant that's on Apache. It's I think it's like diagonal from the Daba, maybe, like across the light rail. Whatever it is, I don't know the name of it, but it is the most delicious food ever.
I love Vietnamese food.
If you're ever there, that's one I'd recommend. Kelly, how about you? Anything jump to mind?
Word of Mouth Grill right by us in South Tempe is my daughter's favorite. Family owned. Of course, I'm all going to give you all family owned. Yep. The Sweetest Season has the best coffee. So I used to go there often for coffee dates. And Intentional Foods is on the border between Tempe and Mesa, and they have allergy friendly. So we all do. So
nice.
I'm going to have to visit South Tempe more.
Yeah.
When I first moved to Arizona, I lived on the west side on First Ave and Farmers. And then I lived on the east side by Mesa off of University. So never really hung out in South Tempe. I know they have that new Alamo house, but this gives me more reason to visit down there.
Oh, you'll love the barbecue is the best. And Ghost Ranch, when they were open, I think they're opening again. Hopefully, they have.
I've been to Ghost Ranch.
The best fish tacos. Anyway, I know you have a lot more questions, so let's.
I know.
I'm getting really hungry now. Okay.
Late lunch
so for our last 2 questions, for us to wrap up, the first question that we love to ask is, what's your favorite book? And would you recommend it? And if you would, if you wouldn't recommend that book, what book would you recommend? And then the second question that we've been asking is, what skill or lesson have you learned through COVID that you are going to bring forward into the future? So let's see. Let's start with Kelly because she's heard these questions before. So while you guys think, Kelly, what's your favorite book?
For entrepreneurs, This Is Marketing is a really good basic book for anybody, and you can just keep listening to it over and over and over again. I keep taking more and more and more notes to give, to help my clients with. But I love instead of looking at the, who's your demographic, look at the psychographics of people, which I really love. So that's This Is Marketing. Kogan, I think is his name. I don't know, but it's really easy. This Is Marketing. And then what I know for sure, Oprah's book. I love her life book.
Yeah. And what's your life lesson or skill that you've learned through COVID that you want to take forward with you into 2021?
Silver lining has been finding the silver lining. Used to be once a month and once a week. Now it's almost every day. I purposely pick a silver lining. You could say, oh my gosh, my husband got COVID. Oh my gosh, the kids are home and what the heck are we going to do with business? But finding the silver lining, like dancing with them in the, having dance parties in the afternoon, or, getting to have lunch with the kids, or having the time to be home and work from home and just continuously finding the silver lining has really helped, and just makes it, easier to deal with if you find the silver lining every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen you post about it or talk about it before, and I've actually found myself using that tip. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, good.
It's easy to get in this like, oh my gosh, this is awful, and to step back and think, well, what's the silver lining? So thank you. All right, let's see, Greg. How about you? What book? What's your favorite book?
I was kind of thinking about that one while sitting here, and I remember my brother had recommended me one a while ago. So I'm actually thinking of two books. So one is The Alchemist by Paula Cochello, if I pronounce his name right. Really good, and fitting being a chemist, I was kind of intrigued about it. But if people are familiar with alchemy, it was turning non-precious metals into precious metals, in particular gold. And really, in The Alchemist, he really transforms himself into something that would seem to be more valuable through his journeys of going throughout the world. And not only was it, he had this own methodology, but it was very spiritual too. So I'm also not only a scientist, but a very metaphysical, spiritual person as well too. I actually see you have your beads on your wrist too. I actually wear, if they're not Cochello beads, some kind of stones I like wearing. But it was just really empowering in that sense. And the other, I'm a sci-fi fanatic, and the other one is by Michael Keaton. Not Michael Keaton, but it's called Prey. I can't remember his name right now. Very famous book that got him off the ground. And it talks about nanotechnology when it kind of first came out. And it started in a national lab in California and kind of spread into the Nevada desert. And it was just very good in the writing, to where I actually visualized myself while I was riding the train from, I lived downtown, riding in the Tempe going to work, where, I felt like some nanoparticles might end up attacking us, swarming through the train or something. So it was just kind of a fun book to kind of take my mind off of using science fiction and working on stuff that's science fact.
Awesome. I love The Alchemist. It's one of my all-time favorites. And I always think about, okay, Jennifer, if you really want this, the universe will conspire to help you achieve it. Yes. And so I always think but the universe is going to make sure you want it. So just, commit. I see Karen in the corner. Yes.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing that you have learned through COVID that you want to bring forward?
Oh, yeah. Really good question. So first off, I know to remain active, because of COVID-19, I gained the COVID. I heard the average was COVID-20. So definitely being more active again. But then what I realized is that you can make an impact no matter where you are. So like I was mentioning, I work at ASU, ASU actually made an effort to look for all their COVID-related intellectual properties. And the FDA has this emergency use action to where they actually wanted to get all those technologies out, make them more readily available for companies. So I work in the physical sciences division. So a lot of vaccines and anything chemistry related like that is on the life sciences side. But you also have to think about PPE, personal protective equipment, 3D printing, diagnostic materials. So we had intellectual property with that. So I helped kind of collect, comb through our inventory, our repository, based on, I'm a member of the American Chemical Society, based on some criteria from that, and kind of came up with a report and kind of helped support our SkySong team with that. So it was a minuscule, small effort, but part of a larger effort that we did. So now I can say I did something in 2020 for that. So that's the silver linings that, hey, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, there's some way you can impact and help us all stay safe.
Yeah, that's so true. That's awesome. So interesting too. I'll have so many more questions, but we're really running out of time. So
we can definitely talk offline.
Yeah, for sure.
Or we can all come back for part 2.
You're right.
Yeah. And Erika, how about you? What's your favorite book?
So I'm going to be real with you guys. I love chick lit, but I'm not going to share any chick literature, but I'm not sharing that. I'm going to be the professional that I am. No, actually, there's one that kind of is more of the self-help lines, Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Oh my gosh. Get your highlighter.
Self-helps are good.
Yep. Get your highlighter. Read it a few times. So good. My sister gave that to me. Untamed.
Oh, yeah.
My sister gave that to me for my birthday this summer, and I think we're going to reread it together and do the highlighter situation because it's just easy to read, very impactful, straightforward. She doesn't beat around the bush. So it's great. And then the silver lining, I have 2 or soon-to-be teenage daughters, soon to be 13 and 16, and they are smart. They are smart, bright young ladies. They're caring, they're empathetic, and, they're on TikTok, they're on Snapchat, and we like to give kids a hard time about that, but they learn a lot, and I'm so proud of the young ladies they are, and even if we're not getting along, even if we're looking at each other, they're at the dinner table like, what are you saying? Why are you saying that? They are beautiful young beings, and I'm happy to spend extra time with them.
I know, that's right.
Aw, that's awesome. Thank you. So my last question quickly, where can we find you all to learn more? So Kelly.
Kelly Lorenzen, KLM Consulting. I'm on all the social media platforms and website klmconsultingandmarketing.com. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Greg, how about you? Where can we connect?
Yeah, really good question. So man of many hats, but man of one lab coat. And you can find me on best right now is on LinkedIn, t.Greg Tucker. And I also do consulting as well, STEM Chemist Consulting. And you can find me on Twitter at STEM Chemist.
Great. Thank you. And Erika?
Yep, Erika Acorn at the Tempe Chamber. LinkedIn is the best place to find me. And it's Erika and Acorn like the nut.
Awesome.
Can't forget that.
Right?
All right. Well, thank you guys for being on today's show. It was an incredible conversation. We do need to grab that lunch or part 2, or maybe part 2.
Yeah.
But until next time, thank you for being an awesome part of our community.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for having us. Jennifer, thanks for having this show, and looking forward to many more and listening to future shows.
Absolutely.
Thank you
and
so much.
Can't wait to meet everyone in person finally, too.
Yep.
Post-pandemic.
Nice. Yep.
Thank you for listening to the Max 6 Community Connection radio show and podcast with your hosts, Jennifer Burwell and Kyle McIntosh. We are off to continue building better communities where people and businesses thrive and telling the stories of capitalism as a force for good through the businesses that we serve. To be a part of the conversation, join us for a tour of the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center in Tempe, Arizona, or find us at max6.com.